Hello and welcome to this special segment in CNBC TV 18. Railways is at the core of the infrastructure development program of the Modi government. And to talk about that, with us today is Arunendra Kumar, Chairman Railway Board. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Sir, it's been about 3.5 months since the cabinet had okayed the decision to allow 100% FDI in railways. On your part, you have identified around 17 sectors where FDI can be brought in. You have identified projects. Can you now give us a sense of by when do you expect the FDIs to flow in to these projects that you have identified?
You must first understand that FDI policy has to sink in with the people who have to invest in India. And FDI can be foreign direct or for domestic also, and private sector investment, we are not new to that.
Right.
We have to attract more customers, and we have been receiving large number of inquiries, and we had the first investors meet on 5th of December this year, to be followed by 2 more in January and February. So the interest is growing. They want to understand as to what all sectors they will find the returns to be forthcoming if they invest. We have educated them, and we are willing to change to whatever we have issued our sectoral guidelines so that it comes up to their business expectations.
I'll come to that point in just a while. But sticking to this particular issue, because you have identified high-speed train corridor projects, you have identified stations, you have identified locomotive manufacturing projects. While we have been seeing all this, we do not have any sense of will FDI come in, and if so, by when will FDI come in? What are the issues that they are raising as far as having some kind of a clarity on bringing in FDI into these projects which Railways has itself identified?
By and large, they have reasonable clarity on the requirement part. What they are perhaps, as we understand, is trying to get into more of the legal requirements and the taxation requirements that come, because we must be stable in that regime. And the requirement of railways, they understand it pretty well. The technological, the leap that we are looking forward to, the assured offtake model that we have got also in some of the areas, as also the change that may come about, let's say for a station if they invest, or a high-speed corridor if they invest. How do we are going to do? We have also clarified that if you are looking for some land acquisition, we are very much there, because the Indian Railway Special Land Acquisition Act is very much comfortable as far as land acquisition is concerned, because we are dispensed with those parts of social impact assessment, and we can do that kind of facilitation which is required for such kind of projects.
So while for other manufacturing projects, land is a sensitive issue, you are telling us that as far as railway projects are concerned, that won't be an issue for prospective investors.
Yes, the land is one of the major issues, because they like to spend time and money if they are assured that at least land they will get. Technology, they will bring it to us. Manpower, they will choose, and enough money they will bring, the return they will work out. But if they don't even have the land, then where to start with?
What are the profile of these investors? Are these companies which execute projects? Are these investor funds? Are these debt funds? What kind of a dialogue have you had with these prospective investors?
These are at the moment some banks like HSBC, like some investors like Morgan Stanley, we have received inquiries from Canadian pension funds also, and these people are wanting to understand that if railway is opening up, what exactly it shall mean to them. So they are coming, and we have manufacturers, of course, were there. So all varieties of people, Singapore people, the investment bankers from there were here. So they are trying to understand as to how do we get into the Indian scenario, and railway since opening up, especially manufacturing and customer service sector, station, and all those areas.
So while as Chairman Railway Board you were talking to prospective investors, we also understand that at the government to government level also there have been interactions with, for example, Chinese or the Japanese and even the French who have evoked interest. If I'm correct, even the French have in fact conducted a study on some of these high-speed corridors?
Yes, the government-to-government transaction business and discussions are very much on at all levels, whether it be Japan, China, even Czechoslovakia, France, and United States, we are talking to those people in the government level.
Right.
The industry is talking to us, and we are working out the mutual understanding levels and trust.
Before I move on to the next topic, one quick issue that I want to get a comment from you, and that's regarding, railway unions. They have raised a red flag on FDI. Do you see that coming in the way of your plans on bringing in foreign investors into the railway sector?
You see, FDI is new to us, so anything new, it has its own apprehensions that it may not be in the railway's interest. And railway unions, I have had series of discussions with them and tried to make them understand that nothing as of now will be surrendered for anything.
Right.
What are we looking forward is more investment in an area in which we do not exist. For example, high-speed corridors. For example, station development. But if I say that I'll hand over the Rajdhani running tomorrow to somebody else, that's not on, and that's not the part.
Right.
So that dialogue of mutual understanding is on. They have understood, but they have their views on the whole issue.
Let's spend some time on something you just told me, and that is regarding the investor summit which you had. It was well appreciated, but at the same time some issues were also raised. I would not say concerns, but issues, because they said that they wanted some more clarity on timelines by which permissions will be given. They wanted more clarity on, for example, the kind of risk that the railways is willing to share in PPP projects. So is the railways willing to change norms on, for example, risk sharing, and is the railways willing to provide time-bound permissions for these PPP projects?
Let us take up the first part of the permissions. The permissions railway will give in time, but the government permissions, for example, forest clearances, for example, pollution clearances, that is not within the purview of the railway, but the country as a whole, we will set up a mechanism in which we will interact with those departments to get that permission very much in time.
Right.
But railways certainly will, we just cannot be open-ended and say you will come, but I will not adhere to timelines. Just not possible. Then we must give up this area totally.
Right.
So that timelines we got to adhere depending on the project, depending on the type of timeline or type of work that we are envisaging.
So you are assuring your prospective investors time-bound clearances as far as railways is concerned, and help on other government departments where clearances are required.
And other departments are also now very, very sensitive to this timeline, because a person or investor cannot wait indefinitely.
Right.
So that kind of assurance has to go from the ministry, which is the coordinating ministry, that is me.
Right.
So we have to give that from the railways and from those departments associated with the railways, whether it is of state or the center.
Right, sir.
Coming to the second part, you talked of the risk.
Right.
So obviously, the risk has to be shared for at least those areas where we are involved. If you have to given a commitment that you will buy so much, then you got to buy that much.
Right.
But if they have committed that they will give me so much, and if they don't meet that target and suppose they're not able to somehow, then they got to bear that risk. So the risk sharing has to be jotted down beforehand, that whose risk is how much.
Right.
And we are willing to discuss as to apportionment of risk well in advance.
Right. Sir, sticking to this issue regarding investor-related, and PPP projects that you are planning, land assets, you have huge land assets as far as Indian Railways is concerned. How do you plan to leverage this when you, for example, go ahead and build a bullet train corridor or a new station to the PPP mode?
See, today, world over, wherever new high-speed lines are laid, the railway stations have become centers of commercial activity.
Right.
It has levels of parking, levels of shops. When you approach to the platform, you have shops on both the sides. You eat there, you meet there, you buy there.
Right.
So that has to happen.
Right.
And that needs intelligent planning and, of course, land, because what is today in this new set that you have tracks at the bottom and market or stations, or there will be no foot overbridge kind of scenario. That foot overbridge is so wide that becomes an area of the concourse.
Right.
So that is how it is developed all over the world, and that is what we are going to follow in this country as well.
On that note, we will take a short break. Stay tuned.